at his feet. She hurried to reassure him. "Know that I believe you're at fault, of course. I ken better than that. Rupert took the coos up Glenellen this morning, and they passed through here. You dinna need to worry about a repeat tomorrow." Kieran sent her a wink before he turned to go, their conversation at a close. He lifted a shovel from the side of the chicken coop and proceeded to remove the manure from the walking path, his broad shoulders working under the thick tartan plaid wrapped over his shoulder and secured with a pin. The interaction had been brief, but it was enough for her. Isabel would take those precious few minutes and tuck them away in her heart. Any time with Kieran was time well spent, and it even made her muck-covered foot worth it. Grimacing, she hitched the basket up her forearm and lifted her hem, turning away before he could catch her staring. "You'll want to wash that before it dries," Kieran called over his shoulder. "'Tis much harder to remove later." He sounded as though he knew this from experience. He glanced down at her foot, and Isabel's cheeks heated further. She brushed a loose lock of straw-coloured hair out of her eyes. Perhaps not every minute of their conversation was time well spent, not when it secured her in Kieran's mind as a young, foolish woman who couldn't even watch where she'd been stepping. It mattered not how old she actually was. She would always lose her ability to speak when facing the most handsome man in all of Scotland. She lifted her hand in recognition before scurrying back around the castle, hoping the Har would sweep up and envelop her in its mist, though getting lost in fog would hardly paint her in a better light. What Highland man desired a helpless lass? None she knew of. The sun drifted higher on the horizon, burning away the final wisps of fog that still licked the ground, and climbed the edges of Morag's imposing grey stone walls. A shadowed sentinel walked the upper perimeter of the castle, forever keeping watch. 8 years under the protection of her father's cousin, and the castle still had yet to fill the missing pieces of Isabel's heart. The places left hollow from the deaths of her parents and the destruction of her family home just a few miles from where she now lived. She was separated from her home by the impassable chunk of land sold to the Duncans 100 years before, but it felt longer. The miles stretched in her soul to an impossible distance. It hardly mattered that she could travel the space easily in a day. Home would forever remain unreachable. Isabel planted her basket on the ground and perched on a smooth rock at the edge of the loch. She dipped her foot into the icy water, gasping lightly at the cold, and wiped away the grime. She cringed at the state in which she'd squelched away from Kieran. Could she have possibly looked more inept to the man? Likely not. He would not have been so quick to dismiss her if he found her worthy of notice. No, she was far from winning his heart. The chirping above warred with the sounds of the waking world for precedence as Isabel moved towards the castle. Doors opened and closed, and the distant hum of people going about their morning rituals grew louder with each passing step. "Took you long enough," Mrs. Crabbe said, taking the basket from Isabel the moment she stepped into the bustling kitchen. "Parrots in the stove. Best hurry, you're needed upstairs." Isabel spooned a glob of thick porridge into her bowl and carried it to the bench set against the far wall. She ate breakfast while she watched Mrs. Crabbe remove the eggs from her basket and fill it with oatcakes. The consistent activity within and around the castle walls was comforting in its familiarity. People came and went from the kitchen as they moved about their morning chores, and Mrs. Crabbe was at the centre of it all. Isabel watched with interest as the woman set the basket at the edge of the counter and looked about the room, likely for a free pair of hands. "Jenny," Mrs. Crabbe called, lifting the basket and causing a young woman to halt in her steps. "I need these taken to the stables." Jenny rearranged the bundle of garments in her arms and reached for the basket. She was likely on her way to wash them and didn't appear as though she could manage balancing another thing. Isabel stood. If she could take Kieran the men's breakfast, she would have the chance to replace the image of her dirty foot with something much better. "I can take it. Jenny's hands look full." Mrs. Crabbe's wiry grey eyebrows knit together as she slid the basket handle over Jenny's arms. "You've no time, remember? You're needed upstairs." "Marion willna be waking yet," Isabel argued futilely.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.